Welcome back. This is our final segment of Civil Discourse Now on St. Patrick's Day, March 17, 2012. I'm Mark Small, co-host is Paul Ogden.
Mark.
Our guests today are John Tompkins. He's a criminal defense attorney here in Indianapolis, one of only 5 attorneys in Indiana to have gone through the National College of Drunk Driving Attorneys. His contact is btlm.com, and he's on Twitter at John Tompkins. Joh Padgett is our other panelist. He's a local activist. He's on Facebook. He's a former DJ, bouncer, and bartender. He's a retired drunk. But we're talking about whether public intoxication should be a criminal offense. And what we were talking about off camera, it was at the end of the last segment a little bit, there are counties in this state, particularly the counties in which universities are located, and the 3 principal places that we were talking about. I don't know about Vigo County, where Indiana State is, but Delaware County, where Ball State is, West Lafayette, where is in Tippecanoe County, and Bloomington is in Monroe County. There are a lot of arrests of students now. When I was in college, people weren't getting arrested for PI. If you got arrested for PI, if you were really drunk and you were calling a cop a name and being a jerk in an arrest or something. Now they make hundreds of thousands of dollars off of public intox charges, because it's not just that the kid was, and let's say it's a 21-year-old kid walking down the sidewalk, pick him up, they arrest him, take him to court. The kid has to pay the costs of, and what they'll do is what's called a diversion program. There will be no criminal conviction if the kid pays a couple of $100 to the diversion program and a couple of $100 to a different program that's involved with diversion. In some counties they do community service work. In other counties they have to attend classes. But at the end of the day, if you look at the money that they bring in, that's a healthy amount of money. And I know I've been in court in Tippecanoe County when there were 50 or 60 students waiting to have their cases heard. And John, you were talking about Monroe County, Little 5 one time, and you're also talking about when you were in a fraternity, the numbers involved. So this becomes a cash cow for prosecutors and counties, and it's behavior that I've gotten intoxicated with deputy prosecutors and police officers in public places before, and we weren't. And judges. I'm confessing. I've had drinks, and probably both the judge and I, when we were drinking on various occasions, different judges, we were probably publicly intoxicated for purposes of the statute.
Which judge?
Okay,
do not answer the question.
Judge Tem. T-E-M. You see him all over the place.
First name Pro?
Yes. And he's frequently in the court reporters, his cases. But I think that when you put the money involved in it, then that creates a real big incentive for them to all of a sudden start arresting kids.
Well, and we're back to the distinction between legitimate societal protection laws. In other words, I support 100% laws against people being a danger to the public, a threat to the public, a nuisance to the public.
Oh, wait a minute. So Rush Limbaugh should be in prison.
Well,
I agree.
Yeah. Those laws are fine, and they should be there and they should be enforced. And I'm okay with some diversion programs. I think they can be a healthy way, a healthy alternative to help people who made a judgment error or mistake, and who we don't need to spend an incredible amount of resources on in the criminal justice system to reform or get back on the right path. But you're talking about a totally separate corruption of legitimate systems, and that's where we get into, we go back to the toolbox argument. Is that the tool is that what the tool is really being used for in this case? And in many instances, certainly we've talked about 3 counties, so that means there are 89 other counties that it is not as big a deal in, but you still have to protect against those abuses in the entire state. And since a lot of people send their kids to the schools we're talking about, a lot of in-state people, the impact is statewide, even though the actual institution of those programs is only in 3 counties mainly, or possibly 4. And it gets to, this whole, is just being intoxicated in public really something that we want to criminalize? And I think we all agree that in and of itself, standing alone, had a few drinks and went out fishing, had a few drinks at the park when I was walking my dog, had a few drinks at Irish Fest or at the Shamrock celebration that's going on, city, if not sponsored, city supported, because it's on the Circle and they've shut it down, they provided security. Super Bowl, Georgia Street, all of these places where we're encouraged to have a few drinks. So we're going to have intoxicated people walking around, we accept it. That should not by itself be a crime.
Well, and let's look at another, this is kind of related. During the Super Bowl, I know I was shocked to find out all of a sudden that the open container law all of a sudden was, oh, well, we don't really have an open container law. Now, as somebody that's worked in a bar, half of my adult life, I remember taking beers out of the hands of patrons before they left the bar because we were always told you can't have an open container out on the street. Now, Super Bowl comes along, Georgia Street, it's fine.
And that gets back to the toolbox argument. And that, the toolbox argument has another, I think, fatal flaw. Police have 2 hands. They can't use more than 2 tools at a time. So if you give them tools like open container and public intoxication, it's a zero-sum game. You only have so many police officers with so many hours. And every time a police officer gets himself engaged in arresting somebody for public intoxication, for not really having done anything other than maybe offend the officer or something that doesn't amount to another crime, and legitimately the police officer should be involved in, he's not involved in patrolling the streets. He's not involved in arresting drunk drivers or preventing drunks from getting in their cars and driving. So, too many tools, or a lot of tools, isn't necessarily a good thing.
Well, and I'm not being facetious when I say this, but going to the point on colleges, part of the college experience, and I don't care if it's here or in Europe where the drinking age is actually 16 in most countries, part of the college experience is socializing while imbibing alcohol. And I went to DePauw, where technically it was against the school rules to have alcohol in a living unit, and then they realized that wasn't really working because SAE had 14 kegs which was a big kegger for our school. They realized that really, in DePauw this year was ranked number 6 in the country for drinking, as far as beer drinking and partying. So,
congratulations.
Go Tigers.
Woo!
Even without you there, they're 6.
Yeah, I graduated and they lost like a veteran.
Yeah.
But we were learning to socialize for executive settings, and part of the experience of college is going to a kegger, having drinks. I know that that's frowned upon by the administration and by parents and everything, but you can't get around it. A lot of students do that. And so for these communities then to derive so much of their income and their jobs from the universities themselves, and then prey upon the students who come there and nail them on public intox charges is even worse.
Well, you're also talking about minor consumption, but
that's a separate.
Under 20, that's a separate thing, and I'm not for the 21-year-old drinking age.
Well, I think if a member of the United Mine Workers wants to have a drink, I think that's going anti-union too far. Right. But I think they should lower the drinking age.
Well, and remember on federal installations, for instance, people always say, well, if you're at Fort Carson, you used to be at Fort Bend here in town, the Enlisted Man's Club could serve 18-year-olds, and the packaged liquor store could sell liquor to 18-year-olds, because in federal property, the drinking age is 18.
I would have come down here to Indianapolis a lot if I had known that then. Well, if that had been made public. Instead, when we would schedule debate tournaments at the beginning of the year, our coach would say, to which tournaments do we want to go? The first state that we'd pick was Wisconsin, because Wisconsin was 18 for everything. So there were tournaments at Wisconsin State University at Oshkosh. Now it's UW Oshkosh. University of Wisconsin Whitewater, which had this bar with excellent shrimp. Anything that was in University of Wisconsin La Crosse. We went to Wisconsin. Next we'd go to Michigan. Then Illinois had 19 years was the drinking age for beer and wine.
Illinois was, and I grew up in Champaign. Illinois, the state law was 21, but they allowed home rule, and so local communities could lower that down to 18 if they wanted to. And Champaign was 19, Urbana was 18. And for anybody who's been to Champaign, Urbana, they're literally right across the street from each other. So you could be legal in a bar on one side of Wright Street, walk across the street, and not get in a bar on the other side.
Well, University of Wisconsin-Madison had the largest, the beer bar in the Union Building sold more beer than any other place in the state of Wisconsin. It was phenomenal. And then when we went to nationals my freshman year, nationals was where I wanted to go every year. And then in spring of '77 we went to University of Utah for nationals. That was in Salt Lake City, and my debate partner and I bought a case of beer. Our coach wasn't with us on the trip, and I'm taking a leak for about the 5th time, and I'm on my 4th beer, and he said, "Are you catching a buzz?" And I said, "No." "Are you?" And he said, "No. What are these damn red dots on the tops of the cans? What do they mean?" And I said, "Oh, it's 3-2. So we ended up, it was spring break. That's what we always did for spring break was nationals. We bought hard liquor the rest of the time.
3-2, you should point out, it's watered down beer.
Yeah, it's about half the alcohol content of beer sold here. So, so would we agree that we should lower the drinking age?
Well, I always ask people who raise that question this. If you were given the choice of having your son or daughter socialize and learn their drinking limits and learn about their ability to consume alcohol and how to behave with alcohol at home, living with people they love, living with people who are looking out for them and have their best interest at heart, or away around a group of 20-somethings who are encouraging risky behavior, sometimes hundreds of miles from their parents and the people who want to love and protect them. If you were given the choice of where your child should learn about consuming alcohol and their limits, which would you choose? And if you would choose at home, drop the drinking age to 16. And if you would choose, no, I want my kids to learn about drinking while they're binging with other 20-year-olds, then choose 21. And send them off to college and say, go learn how to drink.
I can agree with lowering the drinking age, but I think I wouldn't lower it any lower than 18. Basically for me the standard is if you can fight and die for your country, then you should be able to drink.
Well, and I think with the U.S. military today, we should draft people as young as 7 years of age. Justice Scalia said that 7-year-olds could be executed at the time the Constitution Convention was convened, so let's take that across the board. This has been Civil Discourse Now, March 17, 2012. Our guests have been John Tompkins, who's local criminal defense attorney here in Indianapolis, Joh Padgett, who's a local activist, Paul Ogden's my co-host. I'm Mark Small. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And now we're going to go out and enjoy St. Patrick's Day, and I hope you have a good one too.